aka Pink Paradox. Pink Paradox. Hello and welcome to Pink Paradox Reads. I'm Lisa, aka Pink Paradox, and I read books, I watch horror movies, and I unbox stuff that has to do with books and horror movies. In this video, I'll be talking about books that I've recently read and books that I'm currently reading. Let's get into it. As a reminder, or if you are new to my channel, I read mainly horror, thrillers, and mysteries with some children's literature and nonfiction. The first book I want to talk about is one that I started reading all the way back in October. I have not done one of these recent current reads videos in a while. This is the Mammoth Book of Nightmare Stories, edited by Stephen Jones. And short story collections can be a bit of a mixed bag. As you know, they can be a little bit hit and miss, but I was pleasantly surprised by this collection. Lots of great stories in here. Lots of well-known authors and stories that fit into several different subgenres. I especially liked the simple yet effective Neil Gaiman story, Kim Newman mixing the internet and spiritualism, and the Tales from the Crypt like the Art Nouveau Fireplace by Christopher Fowler. There are genuinely scary stories in here. The opening story, The Viaduct by Brian Lumley, made my skin crawl. I also really enjoyed that the stories were from different time periods and that there were some really creepy illustrations throughout. After reading the Mammoth Book of Nightmare Stories, I wanted to seek out other collections like this edited by Stephen Jones, and I found Terrifying Tales to Tell at Night, which was unscribed, and this one is aimed at younger readers. The title is definitely inspired by scary stories to tell in the dark. There are 10 tales in here, some by really famous authors like Stephen King and Neil Gaiman, and others that were unknown to me previously. I found a lot of things to like in this collection, and again, I really enjoyed the illustrations, again by Randy Brocker, but I struggle to pinpoint just what age group this book is aimed at. Indeed, I found one of two Christmas stories in the collection, Granny's Grinning by Richard Sherman, to be super disturbing, and I wonder what children would make of it. Like I said, some great stuff in this collection also, but it wasn't quite up to the Mammoth Book of Nightmare Story in terms of quality. Next up is a novel that I had been looking forward to reading for a very long time. This is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I loved her previous book, The Twisted Ones, and this one was also a real delight. In The Hollow Places, we meet Kara, nicknamed Carrot. She is recently divorced and she is not thrilled at the prospect of having to move back home to her mother. So when her Uncle Earl offers her a room above his Museum of Natural Wonders, she goes for it. She has many happy memories from the museum, and she helps out Uncle Earl by cataloging his collection, which consists mainly of taxidermy animals of all kinds and other natural wonders that people from all over the world send to Uncle Earl. When Uncle Earl needs knee surgery, Kara decides to run the museum by herself, but she soon finds herself in a spot of bother. She finds a hole in the wall in the museum, a hole that seems to defy the laws of physics. Along with her friend Simon, who is queer, really weird, and 110% lovely, Kara goes through the hole in the wall only to find a completely different world filled with awe-inspiring creatures and full of danger. Where The Twisted Ones was more of a folklore book, this is more cosmic in tone. It does serve up some stomach-churning imagery, and if you read the book, you'll know what I mean. But I wouldn't say that it's a particularly scary book. What I love the most about T. Kingfisher's book are her characters. Kara is a very likable lead. Simon is definitely the kind of friend that you would want to have by your side if you find yourself in a terrifying different world. And Uncle Earl is just a star of a person, pure and simple. The Hollow Places is very similar in setup and tone to the Twisted Ones, so if you did not enjoy that one, there is a good chance that you might not enjoy this one either. But if you did enjoy the Twisted Ones, I think you're going to love the Hollow Places as well. I listened to the Hollow Places on audio, and the narrator Hilary Huber really brought these characters to life. I absolutely love this book. Then we have a book that I featured in my previous video, my probably final book haul of 2020. This is One by One by Ruth Ware. And in that video, I said that I had read all the previous books by Ruth Ware, but this was my first physical hardcover copy. So it is a bit of a shame then that I found this one to be a little bit underwhelming. The plot takes place in a ski resort in France up in the snowy mountain in a chalet where a team of app developers are gathered for a business retreat. One of the members of the team goes missing, and then there is a devastating earthquake that separates the chalet from the outside world, and then the members of the team start to end up dead one by one. It's tough for me to really put my fingers on what I didn't particularly like about this book. I think it's a combination of factors. I found the plot to be a little bit too predictable. There were too many characters, and none of which I particularly liked. In a lot of ways, this one reminded me of The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, which was another mystery that I didn't really enjoy that much. It's a real shame because the previous two novels by Ruth Ware have been favorites of mine. I'm just hoping that she'll come back stronger with her next book. On Kindle, I read the YA graphic novel Anya's Ghost by Vera Brusgol, and in this graphic novel we meet the titular Anya, who has her host of typical teenage problems with body image and fitting in with her peers and having crushes on boys that doesn't know she's alive, etc., etc. Anya is from a Russian immigrant family, and with that there is also the issue of her identity as a Russian student at an American high school. One day, whilst in a brooding mood, Anya accidentally falls into a hole and finds herself at the bottom of a dried up well. But she's not alone down there. She's joined by the ghost of a girl named Emily, who was murdered nearly a century ago. When Anya is rescued from the well, she inadvertently brings a piece of bone of Emily's with her, and with that, Anya has a new ghostly best friend in Emily. At first, it seems quite cool to have a ghostly bestie, but as time passes on, Anya is starting to doubt Emily's real intentions. I really enjoyed this graphic novel. The art was a little bit cartoony, but the subject matter was definitely not, even with a ghost at the forefront of the story. The author really took her teenage audience seriously with subject matter that didn't shy away from issues that real teenagers face. Last one of my recent reads is the Magpie Society, One for Sorrow by Zoe Sugg, formerly known as YouTuber Zoella, and Amy McCulloch. This YA mystery is set in an elite boarding school in England, and the narration is divided between Audrey, who is a new student just arrived from the US, and Ivy, a straight-A student and newly appointed prefect. Oh, and there is a third narrator actually, but I'll get back to that. As the story starts, the dead body of the most popular girl in school is washed up on the beach at the night of the Illumin Hall end-of-term party. On her back is an elaborate tattoo of a magpie. A mysterious podcast is released, and the unknown host claims to know that Lola, which is the name of the girl, was murdered, and that they intend to get to the bottom of this case. Audrey and Ivy are thrown into solving the mystery, although they don't get off on the right foot when they first meet each other. Together, they find out that there is something secret and something very dangerous at the heart of their seemingly perfect school. The Magpie Society is your classic kind of YA mystery, and I have to admit that I was drawn mainly to the cover of the book and the title. Magpie is one of my favorite birds, and the Magpies is also the nickname for my football team. It did take me a little bit of time to get into the story of this book, and I did not particularly warm to the characters right away. I found especially Ivy to be really unlikable. Even so, from about the midpoint, it did keep me entertained and wanting to continue listening. I also really enjoyed the production of this audiobook. The podcasts in between the chapters were a particularly nice touch. Not a spoiler, but this book ends on a cliffhanger, setting it up for a book number 2, and I will probably check that one out as well. In recent reads, I am listening to We Are Where the Nightmares Go by C. Robert Cargill. I heard him interviewed on the Geek's Guide to the Galaxy podcast, and I immediately wanted to check out this short story collection. I have not read much of C. Robert Cargill before. I know him mainly as a screenwriter. He wrote, among other things, the horror movie Sinister, but he did have a story in the Blumhouse Book of Nightmares, which I really enjoyed. I have put this one on hold for a little bit though, because I am reading a ton of Christmassy stuff right now, including Tinsel, The Girls Who Invented Christmas by Sibéal Pounder, 2 Christmas crime collections, Murder in Midwinter and Afraid of the Christmas Lights. I am also reading Merry Midwinter, How to Rediscover the Magic of the Christmas Season by Gillian Monks, and this is a super cozy and comforting read. I am also reading Ghost Story by Peter Straub, and this is the December pick for the Shades of Orange book club. I was really happy that this was the pick for December because I have had this book on my shelves for literally years, and I'm really happy that I'm getting around to reading it. So there you have my recent and current reads. As per usual, I would love to hear your opinion on any of these books if you have read them, so please leave those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.